The History Channel has confirmed it. The Lagina brothers found the Oak Island treasure, a Roman sword, 2 skeletons. 886,000 people watched this. None of it happened. That video is not from the History Channel. There are a dozen like it, and they put 5 different prices on the same haul. Nobody has ever photographed a single coin out of it. Why an empty hole is worth more than full one?
Summer 1795. A teenager rolls out to an island in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. His name is Daniel McGuinness. He is 16 or 18. The tellings do not agree, and that is the first thing you should notice about the story. On the east end of the island, he finds a round dip in the ground. In the later versions, there is a ship's tackle block hanging from an oak branch above it. He comes back with 2 friends and shovels. 2 feet down, they hit flagstones. 10 feet down, a platform of oak logs. They pull it out and keep going. At 20 feet, another platform. At 30 feet, another. 3 boys, 3 summers, and a hole that keeps answering them. 8 years later, the boys come back with money behind them. The Onslow Company, 1803. Now there are men, ropes, buckets, and a windlass. Every 10 feet, another oak platform. At 90 feet, they say they find a stone with strange marks cut into it. Remember that stone. It comes back at the end of this video, and it is the most important object in the whole story. At 98 feet, a crowbar hits something solid and wide. It is late, so the crew stops for the night. In the morning, the pit holds 60 feet of seawater. They bail for days. The water does not go down. It never has since. So that is the legend. Here is the part the legend leaves out. Not one line of it was written down at the time. No diary. No company ledger. No newspaper. The first printed mention of digging on Oak Island appears in the Liverpool transcript in 1857. The first full account of 1795 is printed in October 1862. It comes from the memory of an old man who says he was one of the boys. Count the gap with me. 67 years. Everything you have ever heard about that summer comes from men remembering it 2 generations later. 1849. The Truro Company cannot empty the pit, so it samples it instead. A horse-driven auger goes down past 90 feet. It comes up with oak, with spruce, and with what the men call loose metal in pieces. And on one pass, 3 links of the gold chain. That is the single most quoted find in 231 years of digging. Now, here's what nobody can give you. A photograph, a weight, a buyer, a museum shelf, anything at all beyond the sentence itself. The links were shown around and then they were gone. The water beat every company that came after. So the company stopped spending money on the treasure and started spending it on the water, pumps, boilers, new shafts dug beside the old one to drain it sideways. Each new shaft flooded too. By the 1860s, the site is not a hole anymore. It is a neighborhood of holes. Each one was dug by men who were certain the last crew had missed it by a few feet. That is a machine this island runs on, and you are going to see it run for another century and a half. And then the ground starts taking people. 1861. A boiler on a pumping engine bursts and kills a man. The 26th of March, 1897. Maynard Kaiser is being hauled up out of a shaft when the rope jumps off the pulley. He falls back down it. The 17th of August, 1965. Robert Dristol is working 27 feet down in a shaft near the shore. He goes quiet. His son climbs down after him, then 2 more men climb down after them both. The coroner pointed at carbon monoxide from the pump running at the surface. Others have said it was gas off the swamp water. 4 men died in that shaft in a few minutes. 6 men, and not one of them ever saw anything worth dying for. 1909. A New York engineer decides the island is not a mystery, but an engineering problem. Captain Henry Bowdon forms the Old Gold Salvage and Wrecking Company and sells 250,000 shares at $1 each. One of the men who buys in is a 27-year-old law clerk whose grandfather had already put money into this island a generation earlier. That summer, the clerk sails up to Nova Scotia himself. He stands on the dig for a photograph, and you can pull that photograph out of the American National Archives tonight. 24 years later, he's President of the United States. His name is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Bowden dug for a season, found nothing, and then he did the one thing nobody else in the story ever does. He wrote down what he had actually seen. And on the 19th of August 1911, Collier's magazine printed it. Listen to the man Roosevelt's money paid for. Quote, "My experience proved to me that there was not, and never was, a buried treasure on Oak Island." He goes at the borings too, the ones that made the legend. Quote, "No borings ever brought up links of chain or anything valuable. This case was closed from the inside in 1911. And then there is the stone." Baldwin tracked it down and looked at it with his own eyes. He was told the carved characters had simply worn away. He wrote that the rock was hard and fine-grained. The only marks on it were a few scratches, made by staff at a Halifax bookbindery. Then he wrote this, quote, "There is not and never was a system of characters carved on the stone. So where does the famous translation come from? 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried. You have read that sentence 100 times. That sentence first appears in print in 1949 in a book of treasure stories. The author of that book got the symbols from a man in Massachusetts named Kempton. Kempton's own letter explains where he got them. From a school teacher who was dead, who had offered no proof of anything. That is the chain of custody on the most famous sentence in treasure hunting. Bowden's own partner, Frederick Blair, answered him in the Amherst Daily News in February 1912, and then dug for another 40 years. Because a closed case is worth nothing, and an open one is worth everything. So the island filled up with better answers. Suppose for a second that this hole was cut by the Knights Templar to hide something carried out of Jerusalem. It is a wonderful idea. Nobody has ever proved that a single Templar set foot in North America. Suppose it was Francis Bacon, hiding the manuscripts that prove he wrote Shakespeare. Suppose it was the jewels of Marie Antoinette, carried out of Paris by her maid. Every one of those has the same shape. Each one explains why the hole is still empty, and none of them can ever be wrong. The pirate version is the oldest of them. Captain Kidd did sail these waters, and supposedly he buried a fortune somewhere on this coast before he was hanged in 1701. Here is the part that never makes the thumbnail. In July 1699, the Earl of Bellamont sent men to Gardiner's Island in New York and took Kidd's cash out of the ground. Then he wrote an inventory: 783 ounces of gold, 633 ounces of silver, 67 rubies. Somebody dug up Kidd's treasure, wrote down every ounce of it, and it was nowhere near Nova Scotia. Now look at what those theories turned into. The video from the start of this one has 886,000 views. In it, a camera finds a sealed granite chamber, scrolls in lead cylinders with a star map, and two skeletons standing guard. None of that is in any episode of anything. Another video puts the treasure at $110 million. Another at 400. Another at 400. Another at 500. Add up the videos announcing that the Oak Island treasure has been found and you get this. Nearly 1.8 million views for a treasure with no photograph. And my favorite one of the lot carries its own correction. The title promises that Rick Lagina finally uncovered a $120 million vault. The description under it says in writing that there is no confirmed evidence he did. Both lines were written by the same person on the same day. So let me do the thing none of those videos do, and be fair to the people actually digging. A Roman sword was presented as proof that Romans reached Nova Scotia. The team took it to St. Mary's University in Halifax, where Dr. Christa Brosseau put the metal under analysis. It was brass, with a zinc content that puts its manufacture after 1880. The same sword turns up in tourist stalls near Rome and near Pompeii, and this next part matters, so stay with me. They tested it, put the result on television, and dropped the theory. Fairness cuts the other way too, so here are the numbers from last season, the ones the debunking videos leave out. The season that ended in May was the richest that Dig has ever had. A team surveyor plotted more than 800 finds. The archaeologist working the site, Laird Niven, put the year closer to 1200. Under a boulder weighing 40,000 pounds, they exposed the hand-cut stone cradle, and the Portuguese specialist dated a coin from the same trail to no later than 1371. That is real archaeology, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But hold those 1200 finds against the question this video is actually asking. Every one of them came out of the island, not one came out of the money pit. And that is not a technicality, because of what happened in 1965. Robert Dunfield brought a 70-ton crane onto the island and dug the whole area out with a clam bucket, 100 feet across, 134 feet down. He found disturbed earth and seawater. The money pit, everybody is still hunting, was eaten by a machine 61 years ago. The exact spot where 3 boys put a shovel in the ground has been lost ever since. And the flood tunnels, the booby traps, the engineering genius that holds the whole legend together? In 1995, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution studied the water and found nothing designed. The pit floods because the island is porous and the sea pushes through it with the tide. Meanwhile, the province of Nova Scotia wrote a statute for this one small island, the Oak Island Treasure Act, in force since the 1st of January 2011. It puts a government archaeologist on the site, and it makes the license holder pay his wages. The province wrote a law for one island, and the law is about paperwork. So here it is, the complete inventory of everything 231 years of digging ever took out of the money pit itself. 3 links of a gold chain in 1849. Nobody photographed them, nobody weighed them, nobody kept them. The captain on site in 1911 said they were never there. A scrap of sheepskin the size of a fingernail with 2 letters inked on it. A stone with an inscription that the same captain looked at and said did not exist. Some coconut fiber on a beach. That is the list. That is the whole list. And that is why 5 videos can name 5 different prices without one of them being wrong. Nobody can be wrong about the value of a thing nobody has ever seen. The island never produced a treasure, it produced a search, and the search is the asset.
So that is Oak Island, a hole with question in it. And the question with no answer never gets cheaper. If you like stories where the number is the story, subscribe.